Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, this radio station will remain on the air day and night.
Well, John, you've just handed me a song that is 16 almost minutes long. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, let's begin. Happy birthday to you.
Me. I was days ago. I don't know when this video is going to be posted, but my birthday is almost a week ago as of the recording of this. So.
And happy birthday to Chris
Pines.
Chris Squire.
Chris Hemsworth.
Christopher Squire. Christopher Russell Edward Squire.
See, why do I have to have a boring name? That's a great name.
That is a great name. And he was born the 4th of March, 1948. Died in June of 2015 at the age of 67. Born in Kingsbury, London, England. Died in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, he got around.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, I assume traveling with Yes, like touring with Yes, man, by the time you're a touring musician, especially a worldwide known touring musician, like you've seen things. You've seen some things.
I imagine he has seen a few things, yeah, for sure. I think it was cancer that eventually took him out. Acute erythroid leukemia.
It doesn't sound good.
No.
I don't know what it is, but it doesn't sound pleasant.
A rare form of acute myeloid leukemia. Anyway, that's what took him out. Tributes upon his death were made by Brian May from Queen, Geezer Butler from a variety of bands, Black Sabbath among them, I think, Gene Simmons from Kiss, Tom Morello, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, happy birthday, belated a little bit there, Chris. We miss you. Truly miss you. And we're going to do a song that we've been holding off here, Dave, for a while, for the right time, the right day, the right mood. And the song is called Awaken.
Awaken. Going for the one.
Right. We did the title track not long ago. I think it was one of the more recent Yes songs we did. I was
about to say, I think I remember Going for the One.
Yeah, the album is also titled Going for the One, and this album was a change for the band. In fact, this is the only long song on the whole album. The rest of them are under 10 minutes long.
I do like how that's the cutoff. Under 10 minutes.
Yeah, and some of them are even really short, like 5. The song was released in late July of 1977. Late July of 77, and by August 2nd, the Recording Industry Association of America certified it gold, about 2 weeks.
That is very quick.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
It is, isn't it? And this is, way analog, 1977. Nobody bought this online. We all went to the record store. The tour for this record set a world record for Wembley Arena at the time. They sold out 6 consecutive nights at Wembley Arena.
Wow. That's crazy.
The biggest thing is it was the return of Rick Wakeman after a brief hiatus he had left to continue to further his solo career, which was pretty well established at that point. But Patrick Moraz was with the band for one album. He was with them at the beginning of the workouts for this particular album, and then they parted ways and Wakeman came back. And I bring that up only because Wakeman is going to start this song off with a piece of music that wasn't written down and was completely improvised as you're hearing it.
Really? All right, well, let's give it a shot. Yes, Awaken from the Going for the One album. All right, that just gets going. All right, I'm going to pause it for just a minute here.
Okay.
John.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to back it up just a bit so we don't miss anything. I have so many feelings on this so far. So one of the neat things about Yes and Rush and this entire genre of music is, like we've talked about before, how they have the different movements of a piece. Like you feel differently as the piece goes on. And if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm a very visual person. And whenever I hear something, I can't help but have it evoke images in my head. This piece so far has evoked, I think, maybe the largest shift in imagery in my head a piece has done so far. And I know that might be weird because I don't even think it's necessarily so out there or the strangest or most epic or biggest piece we've ever listened to, but in different portions of this song so far, I have felt like I'm in India. There's a number of different points where the sound of how they're playing reminds me of that, and I don't know the name of it. The big like stringed like instrument that you pluck, and it has like 15 strings across it.
You mean the harp?
No, it's like more like a guitar and a harp had a baby.
Sitar.
No, isn't a sitar the thing with keys?
No, sitar is like a...
Yes, it is a sitar.
Like a guitar
Yep. It is a sitar. It reminded me of a sitar, and even the way they were playing it reminded me of notes of like India. And so you had that in there. There are notes of entire portions where I felt like I was on a carousel. And then there are other portions where I feel like I'm at a classical music concert and the piano piece is being played. And it just kept going. Like I kept feeling like I was bouncing all over the place in the best way, in the most enjoyable way. This piece has already been a ton of fun. Lyrically, I don't know. It's wild. There's definitely been talkings of like awakening in that you're discovering a lot of things for the first time. You're reimagining your all sorts of different things from that vein. But I don't have a beat on exactly what the song's about outside of almost like you woke up from a coma and you're suddenly relearning a bunch of new stuff. That's the vibe that I get from the lyrics so far. Because I don't get the feeling that it's like a baby growing up. I get the feeling that this is an adult who is now learning new things that maybe they knew before and they're rediscovering. That's the vibe.
Yeah, they're relearning.
Yeah, they're relearning. So that's where I'm at lyrically. But musically, this has been a blast of a journey so far, and we're barely over a third of the way in.
I'll tell you what hooked me early. I've told you that this song on this album hooked me more than any other back in 1977 when I first heard it. And I was just, this has forever been my favorite Yes song. But one thing that always surprised me, there's only, how many notes is there? Is there 8 notes? Right?
Sure. Something like that.
And then there's octaves. But this song, for whatever reason, somehow always manages to climb.
Yeah, there's a really interesting piece, and maybe I'll find it at some point and play it for you. It's actually for a video game, from Mario, and it is a piece of music that feels like it is always climbing. And it's not, of course, that's not possible, but it is written in such a way, such a circular way, that it feels like it is always climbing. So maybe I'll have to find that for you at some point, but yeah, so far I absolutely get what you're talking about. This is a blast. This is a good piece, and we still have another 9 minutes of it to go.
Yeah, man.
All right, here we go. Wow. Since we've last talked,
Yeah.
I mean, we launched directly into, I felt like I walked into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and I was there for barely 15 seconds before I was lying on my back on sand dunes looking at the stars. And then suddenly I was sitting in a pew in a cathedral listening to this beautiful
Pipe organ.
yeah, pipe organ just reverberate off of everything. And
Yeah.
like it just kept going. I just felt myself constantly transported. One of the weirdest compliments I want to give this is that I think it is very hard to pull back. You know, like they joke about jazz is about the notes you don't play. I think to a point, a lot of music is about the notes you don't play. They were willing to have emptiness for certain small, quieter instruments and let you rest in that stillness, that calmness that the piece created. And that was such a beautiful thing to do. And I think you can only do that. You can only let that music breathe if you're willing to invest almost 16 minutes in a song. Like you can't
Sure.
create that stillness in a 4-minute long song.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. That that's one of their more, to me, classical music, modern day classical overtures. You know, one of their big pieces that is beginning to end one connected thing with
Mm-hmm.
parts. And I mean, I just absolutely love it. And I don't know what else I can say musically. There's times that's as close to flying as I'll ever get.
There was literally a portion in that song where I felt like I was standing on the deck of. Have you ever seen the movie Stardust? Would be the best
I don't
illustration I
know.
can.
I don't think so.
So Stardust is it's a fun movie. If you've never seen Stardust, Robert De Niro captains a flying ship in it. I would put it in the category of Princess Bride as far as movies go. Just it's
Okay.
that style of movie. It is fun from start to finish. It's fantastical, and there's evil witches, and there's a woman who's a star that falls from the sky, and a man who falls in love with her, and the journey they go on, and it's a good movie. Anyway, Robert De Niro at one point is captain of this ship, and he's not the main character. He's just the captain of the ship that they happen to end up on at some point in the movie. And I'm not going to go into anything else surrounding that, but I think of that weirdly regularly, how much fun it would be to be on a flying ship that is catching the wind and just looking down at the ground going underneath you, but without the roar of engines. And I think that's the beauty of it. It is the vista of flying without the roar of engines or a window to look through. And I guess we have that. It's called a hot air balloon. I'm sure I could always go on a hot air balloon ride, but that was where I was at one point in the piece. I was just flying on that ship, and there's so much that song did well, and I don't really have anything that it didn't do well.
Hmm.
And that's what's amazing about it. Lyrically, I don't know. It's wackadoodle. I still stand by sort of my original theory that this is sort of about someone who wakes up from a coma, maybe, and they're enjoying a lot of life, and they're rediscovering things, and they're realizing they're mortal, but there's beauty to life and so much to see. The sun shining on their face and the stars and all of that. That's sort of what I go at. I don't have much here. I freely admit that sometimes in pieces like this 16-minute long songs, I sort of do get lost because it's just so long you can't barely remember the lyrics in the beginning by the end. I'm sure there are more smarter people than I could pull it off, but I'm not intelligent enough to hold it all in my head for 16 minutes at a time. But there were so few lyrics in general anyway, and so you just kind of closed your eyes and lost yourself in the song itself, which I think is the beauty of bands like Yes, that give you that opportunity, that let you do exactly that.
Yeah. Well, you're right in that. I mean, we all know John Anderson's writing style typically is whatever word feels like it fits. Now, this time he did indeed have a theme in mind. He had been reading two books, and one, oddly, the biography of Rembrandt.
Hmm.
Yeah,
All right.
so that's one. That's one.
All
And the
right.
other is a book called The Singer, a classic retelling of cosmic conflict by Calvin Miller.
Hmm.
So he was taking from themes from both of those books to write to paint that scene for us, as it were. The music part was written by guitarist Steve Howe. Um, John Anderson was walking through the hotel. Now they had gone to Switzerland to record this album, take a
Mm.
little break, after touring the world basically, and they're in Switzerland, and John Anderson's walking through the lobby of the hotel, and there's Steve Howe sitting on a sofa over there, strumming something on his guitar. John likes it, so he walks over, and John starts improvising notes over it, humming over it, and singing some words over it. Well, that's the beginning of this song, just like that. It's amazing to me,
Yeah.
how they come up with this stuff. And the two of them are the only two credited as the songwriters, even though clearly Rick Wakeman had his part in it.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly Chris Squire had his part in it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those bass notes, and boy, was Chris reserved or what? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And
but when he
sometimes.
played, it was so meaningful. It was
Mm-hmm.
so poignant at that moment.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think you're dead on. Sometimes it would be just the stillness, the calmness, and then there would be just enough of these beautiful bass notes flowing in and then flowing back out. Like it didn't keep going. It didn't overwhelm you. It was just a little bit here for you. I'm gonna give this some bass. I'm gonna give this a deep, rich backbone, and then I'm gonna fade back out and enjoy
Yeah.
the calm again.
Yep, good use of foot pedals at times that gave me goosebumps whenever they
Mm.
came in, and things like that. And note playing that wasn't on the beat. It would slightly be behind the beat. Oh man, that just whew, that gets me, Dave. I'm telling you. When you
Uh,
intentionally hold it just a little longer than the beat allows for. The time signature of the song, I'm told, because as you and I have both talked about before,
I don't get it.
uh, you know,
I don't get it. I don't understand.
it's 7/4 for most of it, but it has parts that are 11/4.
I don't even understand how that works. I legitimately do not comprehend how that can function as a thing. So,
Well, the
so
only thing I
yes.
can tell you is that from the very beginning, I could tell it wasn't 4/4 because it had that hiccup in it.
Hmm.
That one missing measure, that one missing note, whatever, that one missing part to
Like I
make it
said,
8/8 or 4/4.
yeah, like I try to bob along with the music because I'm just getting in. I'm enjoying it a lot, but then sometimes when you catch yourself when you realize the bob is weird, and that is the only way I can feel that the time signature is strange when the bob is weird.
Yes, right. When my
Yeah.
feet say you're not dancing correct, get a beer. Yeah, and the signature's off a little bit, but intentionally, and of course, and it just works out beautifully for the
Hmm.
song. It's almost not noticeable because that first section has such a groove to it. You
Yeah.
know,
But it's
And
more
that-
noticeable when we hit the calm, when we just
yeah,
have a little bit going on and you can pick it up easier because there's less distracting you from hearing what's happening.
yes. Another song that had a 7/4 time signature we did by Peter Gabriel was Salisbury Hill, where it seemed danceable the whole way
Hmm.
through, and yet it had that hiccup note in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
It was just a little off.
Yeah. So that's the extent of my understanding of the time signatures,
Sure.
basically, just because I'm not a trained musician. But the song to me, like I first listened to it on a pair of big old '70s headphones, much bigger than the ones you're wearing now, that went all the way around the ear,
Mm.
and covered it completely, where there's more headphone than head at that point. And I'm, how old am I? 14, 15, whatever years old, and I'm laying on the rust-colored orange sofa of the '70s and just floating and
Mm.
goosebumps filling, and that was my first listen experience, and that's as real to me today as it was then, you know. Yeah, it's just there's no getting around that. Anyway, a couple of more things about that album. They had a new engineering person on that album, new
Mm.
person mixing their sound. Their former guy Eddie Offord, who did a wonderful job. He just felt that he had taken the band as far as they could go, and he bowed out from being involved in this album. So they had a new guy. This is also the album cover with the naked man butt on it.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen we've talked about that a couple of times now. Yeah.
Yes. going for the one. The album, they also stopped using Roger Dean on this album. They used Hypnosis to do the album cover. A pair of Century Plaza towers, like skyscrapers, uh, from California, are like
Mm-hmm.
they're twisted up. They're not the way they belong. They're pointing in wrong directions and stuff like that. And the Naked Man, and then there's all these. And I'll pop the picture up here so that
Mm-hmm.
people can see. But there's all these slanted and various angle tube type things, like going toward the man, which
Yeah.
John Anderson defined as points of the anatomy relative to our human development.
Hmm.
Which, okay,
All
John,
right.
that's fine.
I can't argue with you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Rick Wakeman used a new thing. He used the polymoog. Remember we talked about the Moog synthesizer could
Mm-hmm.
only play one note at a time? Well,
Polymany.
in between the last album that he was with them and this album, Moog came out with the polymoog, where you could
Hmm.
play more than one notes on the Moog at the same time.
Fancy.
Yeah, so he used that. He used a polyphonic analog synthesizer. I used and his usual stuff, the Mellotron, the Hammond organ, and the RMI electric piano, and the Mini Moog synthesizer. But here's the thing that also surprised me. Usually, the Mellotron is the chorus in the background of Yes music. Not this time.
Hmm.
An actual choir in the same
Really?
church. Yeah, in the same church where he recorded the pipe organ parts for that, which was 4 miles from the recording studio. Okay, they assembled a choir. I
That's
mean,
cool.
yeah, and Rick Wakeman, along with this other fella, directed the choir. So all the vocals in that wasn't Mellotron, which is actually a surprise to me. This is a new revelation to me. It was an
Oh,
actual
well, there
choir.
you go.
Yeah, yeah, I did not know that before reading more up on it before bringing the song to your attention. So anyway, a lot of information about a song that I just think is awesome and worth multiple listens, and in my opinion, one of Yes's most fulfilling beginning to end tracks.
I couldn't agree more, John. I gotta say, and I absolutely adored this, and I think a part of what made it so good was the journey it took to get me here. I mean, we're at over 200 songs, and I mean, probably, 50 to 75 of them we were just having fun and they were odd, or like, they were joke songs or whatever. But
Right.
having heard so much good long form prog at this point, I really am appreciating so much of it, so much more deeply than I would have if this was the first song you introduced me to.
Right. Yeah, I knew that this would be a journey to get you to Awaken, and even a longer journey than I knew it would take to get you to Close to the Edge. Where you didn't like that messy stuff up front.
I didn't.
You certainly appreciated the rest of that piece, which
Mm-hmm.
is epic in itself. But on a different level, this one moves so carefully that I think it would have been a more difficult listen than Close to the Edge at the time.
I kind of agree with you. I really do. Yeah. And I hate doing that. So, that's saying
It takes a careful listen. This is not a song you can easily listen to in passing. It's like when it plays, you got to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
You got to crank it up, and you got to close your eyes and sip your wine maybe, and just go with it because it's a ride, beginning to end. And I just think it's an epic piece and deserves a mark in history.
Mm-hmm. I agree entirely. And it deserves careful attention. And one of the things I enjoy about doing this channel is that it gives me the time to actually give it that. And none of this is in the background. I am paying attention to only one thing, and it's the song when it's playing. And I think a lot of times in our world today, that is a tough thing to do. We get so busy. We're always doing things with something in the background. Oh, I'll listen to music in the background. I'm on my phone. I'm whatever else. And this channel gives me the opportunity to just stop and just listen. And I find a lot of value in that. So this is fun. Keep up the good suggestions. And John, keep up the good work. Because, man, maybe I do like Yes.
Wait a minute.